Mobile is fascinating, especially in this part of the world. It's growing tremendously. Even that the number of mobile users is less than 1% of, actually 0.1% of the entire site traffic, you can see here that the percentage of new visits is 281%.
Are you saying in the Middle East
yes.
it's growing fast?
Oh, yes, yes,
Faster than here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about why?
I believe that the difference has two parts. One, the infrastructure. The infrastructure in the Middle East was developed a little bit later than here in the US. And accordingly, they started implementing newer technology in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Rather, for instance, than here, Verizon is using a different infrastructure. It will take time till it change. So this is why, and mainly the Middle East, because of its proximity to Europe and its strong ties with China and Japan, they could import some of those technologies down in the Middle East faster. The other thing is, since there is no good infrastructure in the Middle East, then everybody has a cell phone. Mm-hmm. And adding to that, the age population is on the younger side in the Middle East. Then everybody is playing with their cell phone, and that's it.
And no, they don't have a computer then? Everything's in the handheld?
Mostly, yes. Yeah. So when I travel down there, even though that they are still far away from here by comparison to the e-commerce transactions, but in terms of the internet usage and communication, they spend way much time. I know we have one website which is fascinating. It's mainly for women. They have, I think, 250,000 registered women. Their average spend time per day is 6 hours. I thought it was a mistake in the beginning, but then it's not.
What's the content on it?
It has a very unique difference. They are not allowing any men inside. And you can find surprising comments. Comments about schools, comment about recipes, whatever they want to talk about, and they feel very safe. And they just spend their entire time in there.
Is it in one country?
Mainly coming from Egypt, some of them from Saudi Arabia, some of them from UAE, Dubai, in this region. Mainly the entire content is in the language, so then they spend serious time on that. But when it comes down back to mobile, the mobile part, when I look at it, why would I be interested to this medium if I see that the new number of visits is 280 plus? I would be interested in that because I might see a similar concept or a similar growth in the new visits if I'm running a campaign just to bring in new visitors. So if I'm running a $10,000 campaign to get that amount of increase, probably instead of doing that, I can focus on enhancing my mobile content, and that will directly lead to the same thing. So probably my decision here will be different depending on how my website is performing. Please.
What kind of data can you gather as far as what type of handset is being used to access the site?
Yes, mainly the operating systems that we are having, the carriers, for instance, Verizon, T-Mobile. I didn't include them here because there are different names. But yes, mainly the concept is who is the carrier, what is the resolution? This is the bottom line, because by the end of the day, it's not web. It's just you can find a cell phone with a square monitor, with a rectangular monitor. How can you adjust your content so it's more easily accessible? Because as you can see here, you can see that the pages per visit are much less than the average website, while the average time spent is much higher, and the new visits are much higher. So then they are having a hard time viewing the content. So this is something that we need to work on so that we can keep them more stick to our website.
One more question about just about standard web browsing and the analytics. Is there an industry standard for margin of error to account for people who have their browser set up to purge cookies after every session?
Yes. When it comes down to advertising, because this is the bottom line, for instance, I bought a campaign and I've said, I want you as a visitor to see my ad once every 24 hours. So then, or 2 times every 24 hours. If you do that, you will be counted twice. So then, advertising-wise, people will start monitoring because they are spending money. Usually, the industry average accepted range is 10% difference, which is more than enough to account for all of those differences. 10% I would say is safe. Yeah. Now, as you can see here in mobile device on top, I can add it to the dashboard, and also I can see something called visualize. Visualize is a very nice option here. So I can see on the visualization part, I can simply sort the type of devices that Symbian is the open source operating system for cell phones, then iPhone, BlackBerry, iPod, iPad, so on and so forth. So then I can act accordingly and devise my strategy accordingly when it comes down to designing my content. Now that we understand our visitors, how they came to us, the second question is, how did they find us? Which is important. So on the traffic source part, here you can see that 38% are direct traffic, 34% are referring sites, and 26% are search engines. I had to remove the sources and the keywords for privacies, but mainly here you can find the top sources and the keyword that was used to reach that site. And then for the direct traffic that I have here, I can see how many visitors came directly by simply typing my URL or my web address, how many came using search engines, and this is pretty interesting here. Here you can see that I have Google, Search.com, Yahoo, Bing, and the list keeps going. Just notice here that the source is one thing, and then I have this Dropbox that we will cover in a minute. AdWord campaigns. If I ran a campaign, this is what I mentioned about mobile a second ago. If I ran an AdWord campaign, most of us might know what AdWord is. AdWord is a small software from Google which allows us to place ads on Google. So when you search something, you will find those sponsored sections on the top and on the right-hand side of the Google search engine. So you buy impressions and clicks on that web page. Running a small campaign that yielded only 1,000 visitors, we could see that the new visits is almost the same as mobile. So whatever money I spent here, if I just push a little bit in the mobile section, I will be making up. And I will have more visitors without spending a penny on advertisement. Actually, I will be spending my money on my own content, which is much better, because I'm adding my own assets rather than simply advertising outside. And then this is another website that we are dealing with, mainly focused on the music section. And on the content, when you are analyzing your website itself, you can sort which content is more relevant to your audience. So on that website, it's mainly a music website where they broadcast live music every day, 2 hours from their studio online. And they have their audience coming from all over the place. And we can see here, because they have different DJs and they do different mixes for their songs and they broadcast it, we can see that the major page is the home page, then the first channel, then the Axiom live radio, then Deuce Martinez here is having some prominency. So based on the content and the title of the page, I can see what is more relevant to my users. How long do they spend on those different pages? And then I can take some decisions. I can say, you know what, Deuce, maybe you want to have your show rather than not in the prime time. No, let me push you a little bit ahead because you have a bigger fan base that is growing. And then you can start really interacting with that content and playing with it to do a couple